even
well,
at
we
this
saw a bit
stage...
of that. We saw a bit of that. I mean, we're going to look at some of the COVID inquiry stuff that's been going on. Professor Jonathan Van Tam's been up this week, as Vallance and Whitty, and listening to the way they talk about how policy was made and how they were advising the government, but the government were too stupid to understand what they were saying. I mean, it's quite worrying. I mean, you've probably got a lot to say about this.
Well, I have, but I think the problem is it's very easy to start saying things like that. They're all too stupid. It's a bit like Brian Cox said it. Oh, yeah, there's a problem with science learning at school, as though somehow we can't make political decisions based on what's required. And the idea that the science, that in itself is unscientific. It's crass and irrational, right? What you've got are, as a method of inquiry, that's science. Then you've got ideas that can deal with certain things and mitigate risk, but there's costs and there's benefits. And that is the job of political leaders to assess and evaluate. And unfortunately, they outsource a lot of their responsibility. And some of these people got far too much power, and now they seek to sort of cast blame because it's become irrefutable, I think, that it's become very clear the damage and harm the lockdowns and impacts have had. However, this so-called inquiry, which doesn't even want to assess whether we should have had lockdowns or not, seems to be leading in the direction of kind of coming up with a conclusion that we should have had them slightly earlier and longer and harder, and then it would all been okay. So it's somewhat of a travesty and it's insulting to the public.
They're making out, aren't they, basically, Ben, that if Chris Whitty had been a bit quicker off the mark, not so many people would have died. No evidence to suggest that at all.
Well, what worried me throughout COVID, obviously they would have been talking about this in government, but no one was saying, well, this is how many we think the lockdowns will kill. Right? And there's obviously a number to that. They weren't debating that. And my suspicion is, it's difficult to prove, but I think you can look at a lot of statistics that support it. My suspicion is that the lockdowns probably killed more people than they saved.
Well, they're still doing it
and
as
that,
well.
Right, and that should be front and centre in this debate. And, you know, there's other stuff about... I think the vaccines, a lot of people have forgotten what the government tried to do. Vaccine passports, vaccine mandates that were stopped by the uninformed idiots in the public and the commentariat. But, you know, actually, again, they were right. And the government, I think, saved themselves a lot of unpopularity with that. So the scientists are learned people in a lot of cases, but... They make a lot of mistakes, and we've got to be able to say that.
But that's it. And also, for all of the sort of, you know, modelling that they did and all the kind of, you know, war gaming that they didn't ever see the way that humans would actually use all of this technology, like the way that people would, if they wanted a day off, they'd go and zap themselves with their phones onto every single, you know, QR code down the high street they could find, because somebody there going at some point would have had COVID and they'd have to take the next week off. And nobody could see that was going to happen.
But it's also, look, you know, the thing that's so depressing at the end of the COVID period is that something which should be an area of life that we celebrate, which is scientific endeavour, scientific breakthrough, medical help when you've got a pandemic on, has been turned into an argument against the public and an argument against democracy. Because what we're concluding now is, if only the scientists had been in charge. Well, the thing is, they can only give you a part of the story. And I think, Ben, and, well, you both said it really eloquently, I simply think that when you don't take into account the broader impact of depriving society of civil liberties and democracy, you know, you can sort of say, well, we saved lives over here, but you destroyed society. Destroyed the economy, and you actually have got a nerve to suggest that democracy should be suspended because you happen to have a scientific degree.
But I think, and this is a point about scientists generally, that they tend to be very expert in a certain area, but they, you know, not in a wide area. And sometimes, you know, you can be right on the certain area, but wrong on the big picture.
But the politicians hid behind them. I just want to let them off. The scientists themselves, which it has come out in the inquiry, to a certain extent, they became the people that they put them on the telly, and then they'd say, "Oh, the science shows, the science."
And they obviously loved it, didn't they? You could tell they really enjoyed it.
It's an abdication of responsibility, and you would have thought that a government that had such a resounding mandate would have had some more backbone, and would have had some principle and commitment to ideas. I mean, Boris writes very eloquently about Cicero and others, yet when push comes to shove, we saw all sorts of things, vacillating, changing, turning on, and not having principled commitment. And the thing about wanting to be popular and not making the difficult decisions, and then also outsourcing your responsibility and saying they're the ones. Right. We've seen it in business, we see it in politics too much. Focus groups, consultants. But
trying to be popular is exactly what's killing the government now, because that's what Rishi Sunak's doing. But let me drive you away from that for a minute, because there's something that I want you to see, which is unbelievable.